Hey everyone, welcome back to Germ's Garage. We're here today with a wonderful upgrade for you. We're looking at a 2012 Ford F150. We're going to install a transmission cooler on this beast. 3.7 liters of awesome 2012 F150. We're going to be installing a Hayden transmission cooler in this bad boy today. All right, y'all, watch this now. All right, guys, so here's the setup that we got today. This is the transmission cooler we're going to be installing. It's pretty massive, huge transmission cooler. My friend tows a travel trailer, pretty big full-size travel trailer, and as you can see, he does not have any sort of transmission cooler at all. So what we're going to do, the F150 of this vintage from I think it's 2009 through 2014, they all have this massive place, this just massive opening where you can mount a transmission cooler. A lot of them come factory with a little cooler that runs along here, but for whatever reason the base 3.7 does not come with that. I guess they assumed that people with 3.7s weren't going to be pulling bigger, heavier loads. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out a place to mount this transmission cooler, and this thing's a beast. Let me just show you. Look at that sucker. It's huge. But underneath here is a lip. I'm not a big fan of these push style mounts that go through the radiator and the condenser. So these things are designed to mount the transmission cooler through the condenser and the radiator. I'm not a big fan of that. So we're gonna find a place to hard mount this. Now this is Hayden's new transmission cooler, or a newer design, I guess, that has an internal pressure bypass design, so you don't have to use a separate thermostat to control your transmission temps to keep it from getting too low. Basically what this design is supposed to do is it bypasses the transmission fluid until it reaches a particular viscosity or temperature. So that's real good. B&M transmission coolers has a similar design. I've had experience with both of them. This will overcool your transmission without this bypass or without some kind of thermostat or something like that. So if you're just running around empty, especially in the winter. So just keep that in mind. Get you one with a transmission bypass if you need to. Now we got to figure out how to mount this sucker up. So what I'm thinking about doing is this is the return line that goes back to the transmission. This one here. So on the factory transmission cooler equipped vehicles, this comes out and dumps into the external cooler. And then returns back to the transmission. And you can verify that by just crawling underneath the truck and following that line all the way back. And it goes all the way back. There's terrible lighting. All the way back to the transmission. So what we are going to do is, I was thinking about snipping this right here and using my little fittings straight out of here to mount this up, but I really am thinking about going below and doing it below, and I'm thinking about hard mounting this just like so, and using a couple self-tapping screws to solidly mount that right there. And so there's a couple rubber feet or whatever we can put on the back of the transmission cooler just to keep it from rubbing a hole on the bottom. So that's probably what we're going to do. And I don't think I'm going to snip it right there. I think I'm actually going to snip it underneath the truck, because I've got enough of this pipe. I've got extra hose here and extra hose here. I think I got more than enough to take care of it that way. So let's hit it. Hey guys, excuse me. So what I'm doing here is I'm drilling my self-tapper through this support, and I put this cardboard box behind it just in case I slip. I'll hit the cardboard box. It's not a whole lot of protection, but it is better than nothing. A board would be a lot better to protect the AC condenser here. But I'm just taking my self-tappers and just installing the trans cooler right there. So we'll be in good shape here in just a few minutes. All right, catch y'all back on in a minute. Hey, welcome back to Germ's Garage. We're making progress on a transmission cooler install. This is Mike. This is the guy who owns the truck. If the transmission blows up, he's the guy that's got to pay for it. And that's Eric, the mastermind behind it all, with the epic beard. Say, all right, let me show you what we came up with. So this transmission install is pretty clean so far. What we did is the top of the radiator mount has this flange here. And so we were able to mount the transmission cooler directly to that with plenty of clearance between the self-tapping bolt and the AC condenser. So there's plenty of room there, and it's a solid mount. We've just put a little 18.5-inch piece of bar stock, aluminum bar stock, behind the transmission cooler that we're gonna put some short self-tappers through that bar stock right there and hold on to that. This is pretty simple. This doesn't take much time at all. We'll get some spray paint and spray paint this so it's black. This is the most complicated piece, and this is why you don't find aftermarket transmission cooler installs on F150s like this. This is the outlet from the radiator that's coming back to the return line to the transmission, and this has a different inside diameter than this, and you will not find a fitting at the parts store to step that down. So what you have to do is you have to come up with one of these guys. So we're going to heat up the hose and slip that fitting on. This is actually a shark bite from Lowe's, brass fitting, 3/4 by 1/2. That's the fitting that you're going to need in order to make this work. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this hose right here. We're going to actually put 2 of these in here, and then we're going to route the transmission lines as such, and we'll get it all zip tied up and it'll look great. And what we're going to do now though is we're going to split this line and go ahead and fill up this transmission cooler. So talk back at y'all in a minute. All right guys, what we're doing right now is we're warming up the hose so that we can get the shark bite brass fitting into the factory Ford hose. All right guys, we're filling the transmission cooler up.
It's working.
Is it? Okay, good.
I'd say it's working.
Yep, so the transmission cooler's full.
It is full.
Perfect, perfect.
Transmission
Cooler is installed. Now we just got to make all of our connections and see how long Eric can hold this hose up in the air so it doesn't leak out everywhere. All right guys, we got the transmission cooler installed. I think this is the first one on the internet or on YouTube anyway of an aftermarket off-the-shelf transmission cooler being installed on an 09 to 14 F150 3.7. So let's get you turned around. We'll show you what we're talking about. All right guys, so here's what we got. This is our final install. Well, almost final install. So we've put about 15 miles on the truck and it's ran for over 30 minutes or so. We have no leaks. Everything's good to go. The line's pressurized. Whenever we started the truck, we've confirmed flow. Everything's moving smoothly through the transmission cooler. Mike is going to paint this bar stock. He's got some black spray paint at home. We've got our lines routed nicely and put zip ties on them and turn the zips or the locks. What do you call those things? Whatever. The locks. We turn the locks behind so somebody doesn't get their hands all jacked up. The connections up here look good. So what we have here behind this is the return to the transmission coming out of the radiator. So it's already passed through from the bottom up through the radiator. It comes out the top here. It flows through this shorter line into the transmission cooler and flows through the transmission cooler and then down this line and up, and then it loops back here and continues through the factory routing back to the transmission. Transmission cooler has been filled up before we installed it. We've checked for leaks. Everything's looking great. We need to change the transmission fluid on this anyway, so that's another episode coming up, right? If you let us do it. But yeah, overall, it's installed. We were able to use the hose that came with the Hayden transmission cooler, one piece of $5 bar stock from Lowe's, a couple short self-tapping screws to hold it in. Let me get under here so you guys can see. We put a self-tapper here. Back the light up just a little bit. There we go. There's a self-tapper there, and we put another one right here. So this transmission cooler is solid, not going anywhere. The bottom here is just to keep the transmission out of the transmission cooler, out of the radiator and the condenser. But you got to remember that this is the factory transmission cooler mount. So that'll do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and to subscribe, and come back. We'll do some more stuff with Germ's Garage.